is being recorded. Everybody knows. Okay. You can go ahead, Sugi. Sorry.
So it's 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. The first, we're going to look at the agenda, and we do not have a copy of the minutes from the last meeting that is malfunction on the recording of the minutes. So we did actually pronounce some minutes, and there will be probably some revisions to that. We do not have a copy of them, so we will defer that to next meeting. And we'll also discuss the changes, unless someone thought of something major. I think, yeah, okay. So we'll move on to public comments. I don't know. Danny's going to check. Public members.
Is no one online except us?
Okay, so we want there to no public people attending the meeting. We can move on. So what we're going to try to do is to keep the meeting to within the hour spare. We want to try to get through each of these reports and hopefully do each one in 10 minutes. Being that we've got some discussion items to do. So the first item of information items is the council liaison.
Okay, so it's been a little while since we've met. We've had numerous council meetings, and we did cancel one of our council meetings and still have had numerous ones. So to run through this fairly quickly, the council in July, we agreed to a new garbage collection rate for the city. We created a task force to look into street maintenance fee. Street maintenance fee maintains our roads, and it has not been increased or indexed to the inflation rate since I think 2014. So we're looking into that. Danny could comment more on this, but we purchased technology and services from an IT company as we transition from hiring out to doing it in-house. We considered and did not accept a ordinance prohibiting camping in city sidewalks and parks. There's like a homeless kind of issue. We tabled that, and it hasn't come up again since then, and I don't know what is going to happen with that. In August, we bought a couple of new warehouses we're putting in the public works area. And we accepted the new parks master plan. We did a big study on that over the last year. We bought ourselves an excavator, and yeah,
Not for the library.
no. Although
He on display.
right, it's possible that Jerry will share.
Yes.
We don't know. And then we extended the parks maintenance fee. We all kick into, I think it's like $5.
It's like $5.
Yeah, so we are continuing to do the $5 for the park maintenance fee. It was going to expire in January. So we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but those are like the main things that we've voted on. And we had a presentation on the dog park. We're going to have a big public meeting here soon on Wednesday. Yeah, so a week from tomorrow for like what we need to have in our dog park.
Where is the dog park?
It's going on Territorial and Redwood, and it's called the Wayside property. It's next to where we just built a city hall, city fire department, EMT area. And there's going to be a stop sign going in there, and there's some local opposition to the location of the dog park. And
They don't want it there?
yeah, I think it's mostly, I'm not entirely sure. There was a petition going around, but we haven't seen a petition. The Parks Committee has not recommended any alternate location. I think we're moving forward at that spot. We're just curious to know what the dog park should look like. Do we have dog toys? Does it have real grass? Or is there like a special kind of dog grass?
Filters.
The poop is easy to pick up off, and he goes through. These are the heavy hitting things.
Well, that's a better discussion than some of the other ones.
Well, we go worse. We go better too, it's a mixed bag.
That's
but,
right.
yeah, I'm excited about.
And
And they don't like other pets. We'll be not taking pets.
not recommended.
No, they're not real social. Non-pet animal. So that's what's been going on with the city council.
Busy.
Yeah, well, only because we haven't met, so it seems like it's.
Just like to have one thing on behalf of the pool, basically, the rates have not gone up for a number of years. So I don't know if that was part of the budget before the July meeting or
The rates for using the pool.
not. Passes and daily fees,
Yeah, so,
they've been adjusted, I think, a few years ago, but they haven't been adjusted recently.
so I'm guessing that's probably going to need to be adjusted, but I'm not sure that's a council decision. That might be a staff decision. We haven't discussed that. We have been talking about expanding our pool facility. That we think we need 2 pools. And we're not sure that that property is big enough. And we've been in discussions with the school district and maybe acquiring property because we don't own the land underneath the pool or the senior center. And the senior center has money to do upgrades. And we have money to do upgrades to the pool, but we don't own the land. And we've just started having conversations about like, how do we move forward? We are all in favor of the pool, but we're not sure that the 50-year-old pool is doing it for us. So, and the school district, which owns the land, I think also wants an expanded pool facility again. I think eventually we'll figure out something. In terms of rates, though, I don't know. But
I'm just happy to see that we didn't bump it up for inflation or whatever other reason.
well, don't stay too happy, Rick, because I'm guessing that the rates are going to
We
go up.
also activate, we have 4 swimmers that activate fairly quickly, so the issues.
Yeah, nice. Excellent. You guys can-
Bear in mind the elders. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, so that's kind of one of the reasons we need 2 pools. I guess the athletes like to have a colder pool than our senior and children community. The people who play in the pool like to have a warmer pool. But I'm not a pool expert, though. I own cats.
Is that a criteria?
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the board chair report. Now, I did not formally write out one. And the only thing that I would like to report on is there is a library advisory board calendar, which I think everyone. And that's been distributed to all the board members. And that is what I would like to discuss for the next report. So this is the calendar for the upcoming year. And on it, we have listed the highlighted the dates of all the board meetings. And then at the bottom of each month, it is going to be, this is not set in stone, but this is what we would like to do at each board meeting. And what I would like to do is have each board member decide which topic they would like to tackle and for which month and for that particular month. And they would be able to make a presentation on that item. So there's this month we have reviewed that SLO report, which obviously we're not going to be doing in September. So Danny, could you just,
Do you want to talk about this at the discussion item, Susie, and just,
okay.
this is kind of everyone's primer that it's coming?
Yep.
I don't want to steal anyone
No.
else, sorry.
That's perfect.
Okay,
And so basically, we'll talk about each item at that particular point. So you can look at this and decide which item you would like to work on for this year.
Susan, for some reason, I don't know why I didn't get this.
No, we just have.
We just get this out.
Here's one.
This is just a draft for the board to look at tonight.
Oh, you got
Yes, and it is a draft, yeah.
anyone else?
I did-
I just printed these for everyone, so
It's not
It's a
yours.
few.
Yeah.
if this is approved as part of our discussion item, we'll make this formal and it'll be included with all the others.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
So not to sound ill for John, but what is the slow report? I know L probably stands for library.
And we're gonna come back to these, but that's the State Library of Oregon. That's our annual report that we prepare for the state and the feds each year. But we're gonna go into more detail.
Yes, we'll go into more
Okay,
detail.
good. Thank you.
Sorry. about
That's all right. I like the two that are called routine. I can
Yes.
Work on those.
Yes, we'll work on the No, there's some options over here. Okay, the next, is board member reports. If anyone has, anything important to discuss, okay? So Denise, the LDAT.
LDAC is still in a holding pattern. Did you hear anything?
So at the directors meeting last week, we all learned that it's been almost 11 months until that last met, because it feels like it's flown by. And the requirement is once a year. So we're expecting to hear something for next month, but we still have not yet. I think there's a combination with the county staff. They're restaffing because they lost their director and their manager at the same time. So that's being kind of, there's a lot of dust settling still with the county staff. And so we don't have a specific yet, but I do have one little share to if you want.
Yeah.
So at the directors meeting, I think there was an assignment given to a subcommittee through Commissioner Savis to kind of build a strategic direction. And the directors unanimously pushed back and said this is for the libraries to tell the county what we need, not for a subcommittee to tell us what we need from it. So through all of the different discussions we've had with our advisory boards and with staff, we've landed on 3 imperatives for the county libraries as far as a strategic direction. And this is a working document. It's not ready to share. If you want, I can meet with you and we can talk more about it. But the 3 takeaways are, as a county, we want to be able to share our story, listen to our communities, and adapt. So the big one is share, listen, and adapt. We're looking at it as kind of a circle, a diagram that kind of, we're evolving, learning, and adapting our practices all the time. So that's the spirit of what, the strategic direction that we're looking to go. But this is still in a draft form, but we're hoping to have more information after the next LDAC. Sorry, Denise, I just got this a couple days ago.
No, I love it. I actually saw Paul Savis on the side of the road in, I think it was Milwaukee, next to his campaign van. And I almost pulled over to ask him what LDAC was doing. And I decided that he was in another mindset, talking to someone. It might not be the place or time, but that I almost did. But I did hear.
Backing up.
Exactly. I did hear the last comment from the one that had left and went. She was the one that was always connecting with me, Kathleen. And she said that October was probably the meeting date. So the fact that we haven't heard yet, I'm thinking it's probably somewhere around the last week of October. So, but Paul is in the throes of what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's got him wrapped around a few polls. So the committee, I haven't heard anything, but this is really helpful what you got from the direction. And I'm hoping
This will be
that's-
shared out as soon as it's finalized.
I'm hoping that they're going to make that the agenda is what's going on. So it seems every time we get together, we spend most of the meeting discussing where we were and what we would like to do. It's just that we don't ever get to the do part. So maybe we can do something this next year.
So Danny, is I heard this correctly, that the only requirement is that LDAT meets once a year?
Yeah, for their meeting frequency, yes.
Every time we get together, the biggest part is trying to figure out who are the two people for each city.
Well, sure.
Because that changes
It
when
has
you've
to.
gone that long. And so a lot of cities really struggle to get those two people on board by the time the meeting happens. So,
Thank you. Luke will now present the team notes. I did not receive them from him, and I have not heard from him.
it is summer. So
Yes.
It's not anymore. It's time in school.
Okay.
Reach out to him and see. And so next is Danny with the director's financial report.
The only addition I have, Susie, is just to let the group know that we are super excited that an offer has been extended to fill our children's librarian vacancy. The candidate has accepted, and we're awaiting the final background check information. But we're hopefully going to have a new children's librarian in the next few weeks at Canby Public Library. So this is a huge win for the community, and we're also finishing interviews tomorrow for the replacement for this as well. So we're hoping to have our staffing back up to normal here in the next week, 2 weeks to a month. So yeah, my only two updates in addition to the report.
I can't believe this.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the report that Danny sent?
It was really good.
I do. Danny, for the stats that you give us, is there any way to get, and I realize you probably might not want to make this public, but just like a graph of like a rolling annual, so we can see trend line? It, you know, with the total visitors, new library cards made, you know, since it's every 2 months, but just like going back a period of time so we can constantly see kind of how the graph is looking. Is it possible to do something like that quickly and easily? If you put it, if you create it, put it in the data, then you can,
Right, it's something I'd have to look at.
yeah, yeah. It's just that the data is nice, but then I have to go back and find, you know, the month before and the month
Right.
to see what the trending is like.
I think the last 2 years, the trending would be all over the board because of COVID.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
going forward, I see that maybe it's getting a little bit more norm. Maybe we do it going forward. So if the information comes out exactly the same, we could almost add it to like minutes or something to, you know, do a tick mark for each minute and add the next month's.
Yeah,
I can see what we can do to do a visual representation.
yeah,
of the
yeah.
data.
Something that we can look at to see, so that we know that if something happened, something drops off, it's kind of like, well, then you need to ask a question, but I like things that I can look at a glance and say, hey, the trend looks either static or moving up to the right, and then just like, well, then I don't have any questions, you know, that type of thing, so
Okay, yeah, let me see what we can do.
I like to.
I'm also happy to volunteer to do that. If I look at it, go back and look at all the reports that you've sent us and compile it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing that I would love to see on it, if it's a report that just goes to us, I don't know, do you share this report with other people?
Council gets it, and then all three support board. Yes. So we try to keep it the same.
It would be nice to know what you feel are the library's most important needs. Like, to understand what is, maybe a concern or something that, we would understand was a focus of the library. So like right now, we were hiring 2 people.
Mhm.
And that was really important, but sometimes like, the meetings that you have or the community, where you like the get-togethers and stuff, maybe needing to focus on Spanish speaking or Russian, or that you need support in certain areas, or maybe something the library's having. It would be nice for us to understand where the needs are, as opposed to this is what we did. So, because it gives us a chance to look forward at, you know, maybe participating or being part of something.
Well, maybe we can talk more about it. I'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
I agree.
so.
Thank you.
So Jenny, how do you feel about, like the items added to the collection? Is this, I mean, are these numbers, what you were expecting? Is anything lacking in any areas?
No, the data is very routine.
Yeah.
We're starting again, like someone indicated earlier, to see a little more stabilization with the data, because we have it almost a little over a year now open again. So most of that stuff is coming back into kind of what we consider a norm. Is it pre-COVID? I don't know about that, but it's stabilizing for us where we're starting to see the data level out. So yeah.
Okay. So you don't see any areas lacking that, okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Which,
Yeah, hold it. There you go.
my question is, and I've spoken to Lizzie before, she wrote a little bit about this. Is there any kind of a inventory of items that are, well, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word, not cold, but disascension or whatever?
Oh, I do not know that we keep an inventory of discarded or weeded materials. We probably have numbers, but that would be something we'd have to ask the county for the data, or I don't know. That's generally, Kathleen, a topic that can become very politically heated and something that we don't have. Like, I don't know any library that advertises how much they throw away here, because it tends to pick up a lot of negative attention. So we try to focus on what we've added and the new stuff and keep it very positive. I mean, but it's part of the growing and evolving libraries.
My only question is because of the investment in tax dollars in purchasing the items and then processing they have them out on the shelves. And given I just got an email about the American Library Association putting out a response, an innovative response to some of the banning that's going on. And it has to do with offering ebooks, for example, and things, services for free. So that instead of running through, it's a really scant article, and I'm going to send it to anybody who wants to see it, because it does name the person with ALL who is addressing this. And I just haven't had time to do anything to contact her and say, okay, how does this work in detail? Because I thought, okay, maybe that's the way to handle things.
You put everything digital so that they're not lost.
Yeah.
Still there.
So anyway, so those are my questions on how do we build up and address some of the issues that are facing with all these things. And then
The e-content isn't a one-to-one there. It varies largely in how it's purchased, and they have different use rules and circulation rules. And the whole county did switch just a few months ago from 2 platforms to 1 because it was causing confusion, and it helped our buying power as a county to focus on 1 platform, which is the Libby platform. So there's a whole bunch of issues behind that. I'm just, we're kind of in a lot of different topics. As far as the data specifically about what goes in and out, I don't know that we track that out. And especially because a lot of it we give to the friends, but then help comes right back to the city and help kind of keep that flow of support.
So, and there's a specific process that lines out how things are needed.
There is a process for deaccessioning materials. It's largely based around usage, condition, or like, let's say it says for CBR, you give 15 compressions and the data says now give 17, we wouldn't keep something out that's scientifically invalid now. So there are parameters in the collection development policy for both buying and deaccessioning and weeding materials.
Thank you.
Okay, so friends, I provided a report, a couple things I'd like to point out. We had a very successful program at Swan Island again this year. Heather Schlow is my neighbor, so it really helps to have input her on that. Christmas Trip Light is coming up in December, so it's going to be, we don't think we'll ever be able to go back to touring people's homes. Yeah, you know, so we're trying to make it much bigger this year. The friends are looking for more board members. They basically, the friends has a rule where after 6 years you have to come off the board. So I came off in February, and a couple of people have coming off next year, and we're down one board member because of health reasons. And the big fundraiser of the year for us is we participate in the Willamette Valley Country Club's Thanksgiving tournaments. We provide a lot of the volunteers to get that thing going, and they give us $5,000, which is by far our biggest money raiser of the year. So several people go out early on a Saturday morning, and then we get money. So it's a big fundraiser for both the Candy Center and the friends. The Candy Center gets about 3/4 of it. We get about 25% of it, but they have guaranteed it. So yes, I'm on the committee of the club. My husband and I have been there for a long time, so I don't know. But yeah, so we do a lot to help out with this, because I think many of us support the Candy Center anyway, and just a way of helping out the community, which we all like to do. So those are the things that, oh, and something came out after this, after I sent this report. So a few years ago, when Kyle Lang was in charge of the chamber, they did the equivalent of kind of a welcome wagon type thing, and I included brochures about the library and the friends. I put them together and took them over. And given how much Candy is growing, and there's 3 new subdivisions in between my house and driving to the club, and I only live 3 minutes away, that I had approached the ladies about, you know, are we going to do something like that? They stopped with COVID, and with no, you know, chamber executive vice president, I guess, person. They're not doing anything right now, because I had hoped to do something like that, given that, and I don't know how to get the data, like how many people are moving out of town versus, you know, local, just moving across town, that type of thing. But I'm still going to bug them about getting more information out to some of the new subdivisions and houses, the Candy Library and the friends. That's all.
Anyone have any questions? I have one question. Well, in the past, some of the women's luncheons benefited the friends who did book collections as part of it. And I know the only one coming for this year's probably.
And they think the Cambridge Center is always the recipient. We were 2 years ago, we were the recipient of the ladies luncheon in June. But this year, I don't think that they had anything, and I was out of town. And I wasn't asked to participate on the committee, so I don't think that they did anything. But yeah, it's really good to go to have a place where they drop off books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that most of the ladies know now that they can drop them off, because they've been doing it for so many years. But it would be good. You and I will have to take this off the committee for next spring luncheon and encourage them. Spread the friends.
So the main items that are coming up, which will benefit the library, the money will be Thanksgiving and Christmas store lights, the ticket sales from that. And maybe hopefully more memberships through.
Yeah, it is the annual renewal, so basically the memberships are annual, and so, and even if people join now, they get the rest of this year and all of next year, so we try to encourage people to, and it is, tax deductible, it is a 501(c)(3).
Right, it's great work. Lots of money done. So that includes all of the information reports. So the discussion items are, we have this that for this coming year, the monthly meeting topics and review calendar. So that is what we were looking at previously. So the first item for September, which is today, was to review the state library report, and that would be done with when is that due?
Sorry, that is actually due in October,
Yes.
so the report is almost completed. I'm finishing my final passes at it right now. It takes quite a while and multiple staff throughout the city to get all the different types of data and the different places it's stored, so it is almost ready for your review. So I think that one is going to look well, sorry.
With October, so it'll be presented in October. I think it would be great.
Yeah, I will send it out as part of the next packet for the group, and you can review it. And if there are any questions, we can discuss those.
Okay, would anyone like to, of the board members, would anyone like to kind of take that on and review it and meet with Danny if possible? If there are any, is anything in there that needs up, needs to be brought up in the meeting and kind of spiritual that operation.
It was fun to meet with the other day, so I could take care of it.
Thank you. I know it's short notice and it'll be between now and.
Yeah.
It's fairly routine. I mean,
Yeah.
every library in the state does it every year, so it's not too scary actually. And it's gotten a lot better. The state updated their data collection for last year, so we're using a different platform that looks completely different. It's a lot easier to kind of go through. So
You wanna, is it something you can forward to me?
Mhm.
And then I could look it over and then,
Yeah.
like we have to get together.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, we'll just do it that way.
Okay, yeah, it lives in a state database program that they pull all of them into, so I can help you connect.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So then Denise, I'll have to put you down on the agenda for next meeting to just,
Present.
present that to the board. Thank you.
Sure.
And then so October will be the report. And then October and November kind of go hand in hand. It's preparing the council report, and then that's done. We can do it with Danny or however we would like to, but it's basically, the information that we have on the library. What is doing, so we can present this calendar also. And then the meeting is actually in November, correct, that we're on?
Presenting.
That we're actually.
The board is not on any agenda until we know that that's what you want. So once I know, I can ask the reporter to put the board chair on for presentation
Okay,
at a forthcoming meeting.
okay. So my suggestion would be to go to the November meeting and do our presentation of the report. So would anyone like to volunteer to help prepare the council report? What would be presented to the city council?
So I'll help with that.
Okay. Great. And I will too.
Yeah, but you're gonna be out of town for part. Yeah.
Okay, and then, so then in November, we will have to present the council report. So at our meeting in November, we will present it to the board, what's going to be presented to the city council. And then the city council meeting is usually on Wednesday, is that correct?
We'll be meeting on the 2nd and 16th.
Second and 16th, okay. So we'll target the 16th as the date of presenting. That sounds okay. So Danny, do you request that or do I request that? I'm not sure.
Either of us can, but now that I know that's the date, I can
Okay,
send that over and I'll copy you on the pass.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, then in December, we thought no meeting because of when it would fall extremely close to Christmas. The week of Christmas, so we decided that, well, unless anyone is an objection to not having a meeting in December. Okay, so in January, the meeting would be on the 17th. And it's a routine, there was no topic specific. Unless someone has a specific idea or topic or would like to think about that. We'll just do a routine meeting and maybe whatever has come up from the council meeting or an issue that has been presented in the meantime. February would be the 21st, and this one, we need someone to review the proposed budget with Danny, just to review, just to see, we're not gonna make any changes, we'll just,
And that's also, sorry, Suzie,
it's okay.
dependent on the budget committee and
Right.
council, because we're not allowed, the staff are not allowed to share out the budget document until the budget committee and council have received it. They get it first, so this is our second year with our new finance, well, our whole new finance department, basically, so I'm not sure what the timing is. It might be where February and April, there
Okay.
might be a little flip-flop, but
Okay.
April's getting closer to adoption time where they're getting the documents have been released and
Yes.
are in progress.
Okay.
So there might be a little pivot there, just as a heads up.
Okay. Would anyone like to spearhead just after the budget is proposed to receive it, go through it, and fully understand it and present it to the board?
I can do that.
Thank you.
So
So-
with regards to the fact that it might not be ready for February, we took off the March meeting as well because it falls during spring break. We have 2 teachers in the room. We have other people who have spring break obligations, but we could do it in March if we could move the date so people don't have spring break issues. So that's, we canceled the meeting in March because of spring break, but we do always have the option of saying, well, we will have a March meeting. We're just not going to have a spring break.
That's a good point. So we can readdress this out against. And then in April, we come down, so maybe in April, this might switch with presenting the budget, depending on when it gets approved. But the meeting in April, presentation of the review of the OAR 543. I'm not 100% sure what that,
So that's the minimum conditions
Yes.
for public libraries. So that's well, we started kind of
Yes.
looking at it a few months ago. The IGA asks that, it doesn't ask that we do it, but it asks if we did it annually. So there's a question in the report annually if we at least look at those once a year. So we're gonna discuss reviewing those. The summary, there's an extensive version that goes into great amounts of detail that could take hours upon hours. There's the summary version, which is what many of our peers do, where they go through and look at the minimums and how does our library stack up. That's a fairly manageable task.
Kathleen and I did it the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did the extensive one.
Yeah,
And so the simple one is what you're talking
Yeah.
about, needs to be done this time.
Yes.
I got a question. How do you integrate input on where you want to, you recognize you're meeting these minimum standards? Where do you put in your recommendation to be better than the minimum? And so, and what areas and selected areas? Where does that discussion go hand in glove with just the report itself that you're meeting certain minimum guidelines?
I mean, honestly, Rick, I've never been part of a library that formally addresses what you're asking. Usually every library looks at the minimum requirements and says we need to meet these things. Most libraries exceed those things in some way, but some libraries exceed them more in one place versus others. So that's kind of Wilsonville's better at genealogical research because they have resources, the material for that. So we can't quite measure as tightly as they do. But that's really community dependent and what like budget resources we have, what staffing resources, what does the community want? That's something I would like to know more about through a community
I'm
assessment.
just trying to figure out how we move forward and get quote unquote better. And whether it's community discussion workshops, you know, whatever way, we've done it in other arenas, park stuff, we've done it lots of other areas.
I think it's an area of opportunity for us to learn.
And exactly, you know, we want to be the best we can be and what fits our community. So we're not comparing ourselves to Wilson, we're comparing ourselves to our basic people here. And also not just City of Canby, it's the entire district.
Right.
You know, we've got rural people. And how are we, what is their input to get above the minimum, whatever the minimum is, you know, so.
That's similar to what I was saying, that it would be nice to know where they would like to go next or what they need help with. For us to clearly see what the focus needs to be. I do know that when we did that last report, there's like, for each section, each little tiny piece, there's like 5 different choices that you can choose for each one. The minimum being just the absolute minimum. And then you can go up from there, and it clearly says what it takes for you to get to that next level. And it's not a question of whether you're aiming to do that. It's you're using every resource you have to do the minimum. And then you realize that there's a few caveats that allow you to go up into a higher level. But for small libraries like us, it's very hard to do that. And like he said, it's generally the resources. You get more money and get the resources and you go up on the totem pole. That's exactly what that is, but it's every minute detail of a library. So, and we did pretty well.
It can be done very well.
Yeah, for the size library we have, the resources are just stretched and used in so many avenues. We look bigger than we do in person.
And I would encourage the board not to look at it as like a report card. These are guidelines the state provides to libraries in the state, largely for the incorporation of new libraries now. We're seeing a lot more, not a lot, but several, like in the Chemeketa group, they just brought on Grand Ron. These guidelines basically give a framework for what is a library, because there are cities just to our south, close to where I live in Aurora, that are trying to do like a basement style library. That doesn't rise to the level of a municipal library that most communities want. So it basically sets a bar for what needs to happen. It's not a good or bad, but it really gives a framework for how we can be the best, knowing that we cannot, like, Canby will never be Hillsborough. We just do not have the resources or the staffing. It's a very different size, but if you scale that even up, Hillsborough is supported very well in a different way, you know, our success. So I look at it more as a framework to help us make sure that we're providing the best service that we can, knowing that we can't be perfect or do everything. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, when we see it, I'll be more educated when we see that.
So
Because-
what I heard Rick saying is though that this is great, this is a little, you know, we go through, yeah, we do this, but where's the input coming from? Where does the community think that we can be doing better? I'm trying to paraphrase, but I think I heard Rick say, in that, like, we know one area we lost our Spanish speaking person a couple years ago, you know, that we know that that's an issue. What are the other areas that we might not realize? How do we get input on what the library should be doing to get it better? Because we can't take information to the city council, to the budget committee saying, okay, you know, we're really good, okay, we got the report, we're good, but to meet the needs of the community, these are the places where we need to be better. And this really has nothing to do with the report. The report's nice, okay, but how do we get the information? You know, and I use the Spanish speaking person, bilingual person as an example, because we know that 25% of the population in our library district is Hispanic speaking. So how do we get that information? How do we, you know, go about getting that? Because I think that's the real key to being a robust advisory board, is really representing the citizens of the area, the people, the residents of the area, to make sure that we truly are doing our job as an advisory board and, you know, gathering their input and as to, you know, in what areas are missing. And I know that, I mean, especially working with the friends and stuff like that, we get a lot of very positive feedback. You know, people love our library, stuff like that. That's nice, you know, pat ourselves on the back. But what about the other feedback? What about this is where you are really kind of falling down. And yeah, I know that, you know, for, you know, like, I'll use the example, you know, Hannah used to have music in Saks, you know, COVID happened and we stopped doing that, you know. Yeah, so there's still getting back to pre-COVID, what can we do, what do we need to do differently, that type of stuff. But I still think that the COVID stuff aside, we still need to be getting information from people on, you know, how we can be better. And there might be some things just like, yeah, that would be wonderful, you know, I'd like $1 million yacht too. I mean, but unless we have, you know, some basis of information, getting some way of getting information from people, I think that will never be, you know, completely what the community needs.
Well, and that's an art that I think every library dances with all the time. One of the things that I have actually proposed is a community assessment through a consultant. There are several library consultants that do this very well, but these are expensive and you can't do them every year, especially with the amount of data communities get asked already. It becomes fatigued with it. So I think there's great value to asking our community that once every 3 to 5 years, where we're looking at some data that helps us with our strategy and all of those things. But the minimum calls for public libraries also have descriptive, like Denise pointed out, examples of how you are meeting. So they already do some of that work for you through the actual tool.
I've read the whole thing. Yeah.
So we have the survey still that we did.
Yeah, that's what I was, we actually did the survey and the comments were quite interesting.
Right. That was a very light version of what we would try to do through a consulting firm that can help us do a very comprehensive.
Do you have a suggestion box at the library?
Mhm.
Do you get feedback from that you sent or shared? Maybe we can get.
Most of it goes to the website and it's usually just questions about the library or we love the library. So anything that's any more than that, we look at as it comes up at the staff level, and most of the time it's just, can you buy something or do this thing? And the majority of the time we can. We don't. I have not seen any, you know, can we buy a yacht for the library?
Yeah. Put it in the
If you can check it out through the library, please.
Yes.
But yeah, I think there is opportunity as we look out here. How do we get that snapshot? I would love to put this in the budget this coming year as part of our library budget, and that's something that I think this group could promote.
Is there any grant money available for studies like that, research like that?
Not that I know of. There's some possibility with some other COVID funds still that exist, but council is still grappling with all of that.
So
my question is following from the survey that we actually did do, even though it was light, it gave us valuable information. And one of the things I've noticed is that if your survey is too big, too many details, too many questions, you're less likely to have people take the 5 minutes to fill it out. So maybe we could do a series of light surveys without going to the expense of a consultant, and because maybe they don't know the community. And so if you ask specific questions on things that can come up in council, for example, or in the schools, then you could pinpoint your questions directly to address that and find out what people think. And what can the library do in this circumstance? Because breaking it down, it's like how do you get your master's thesis and your PhD done, your dissertation? Or you break it down into small segments, and so your research is bit by bit. And then you compile it.
We do have support from the state library. They have some staff who do work specifically around this, and they help guide on a different basis. But we do have some resources. We try not to just wing these things. We want to have some background and attention to it to make sure that, I mean, we have only a handful of actual degree librarians on staff, and so we want to make sure that we bring in some folks who can help us. But there are other places that we can ask that aren't in CTS.
Do we have, like, the public would know more of what they would need in the library if they're spending time in the library? Are we at a level where there are actually good numbers of people spending time in the library, or are they still staying home doing picky junk things?
I don't have an exact set of data to share about. I mean, we have increasing users. We're averaging about 203 people a day, just on a monthly basis that are coming in. That doesn't mean they're staying. That could just be a bit of a hold,
Right.
or use a study room for 15 minutes or half hour. We don't know the specifics of everyone's business. But
Okay.
we have some data, but we're very in the weeds on this. I want to observe time too.
So one more question, because in the July snapshot, one of the things, and of course this is every 2 months, the reference question answered, there's an implied interest in certain things to that. Has there been any change in that overall number? Once we reopen and got going again? Is that pretty steady at, it's almost 2,000 questions?
I would have to go back at the whole year, definitely, and look. I can't speak to that specific. Sorry.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that's a clue. That's an indicator there are things that people have actually asked about of the library. So, you know, it's weighing in with some information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the interest is.
So going back to this, we would like to spearhead the reviewing the minimum requirements on their own, and then, you know, meeting with Danny to look at the report that was sent that obviously shows where we are and how we need it. We're thinking, okay. And then, by doing that, you can look at, you know, like you were thinking, the next step up.
Yeah, this discussion.
Thank you. And then May meeting, so this might be bumped into May, being if the budget is done in April. So that will be. And then in June, elections for officers, and for new people coming on board. So thank you. Okay, so like I said, this will be a kind of a moving target, something we're looking forward to.
Much appreciated.
Oh, I love it. That's nice. Lois and I and Danny were coming out to major.
We hope to give everyone an idea of where
Yeah.
hopefully we made
Yeah.
some stress.
Okay, the next item, we've got 10 more minutes here. Topic liaison assignments.
Oh, that was what we did. Yeah,
That's
sorry,
it.
we accomplished both.
Yes,
so-
that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Okay, so action items,
We each have action.
yes, we each have action items based on. And the one that we had was, I was supposed to get this down. Apologize for it being, but it's here. So, yeah.
There is an old question.
Sure.
It was about checking into the forum when we got 8, because of 3 forum members when we had 5. So
Oh,
are we doing?
I feel like I asked Joe and it went up by 1. Does that sound consistent?
Or is it,
Let me read.
Usually I feel we one and a half, but
I mean, let me follow up on that, Kathleen.
Okay,
We
great.
talked about it and now I
Yeah.
don't.
I also spoke with Joe about it. And I think that we're supposed to have some kind of, not us, but the city,
okay.
or,
I'm like,
it might be a charter revision, and it's like everyone has to vote on it. I don't know, I forget actually what Joe said.
Yeah, I'll copy you and circle back on that.
Yeah.
More on discussion with Joe. Sorry about
Thank
that.
thank you, Kathleen.
You're just running a library, what's wrong with you?
It's fall.
I think you can totally do anything that you don't get to. I don't know how you do it.
So much.
I just have 2 oddball questions before you close.
Sure.
Close.
No, go ahead.
I had a question regarding volunteers in the library. And I apologize if there's something in the policy, I know, now addressing volunteers and eligibility and what positions they can do. But, and this is just me, I'm wondering, is there a way, or is that's not expensive, or doesn't require staff time, or that it's not, it's perfectly legal? Is there a way for a qualified adult to read to children at an appropriate time in the library, in a group setting? Not the smart reader program like this, some of the, that's a public program. Well, that's a one-on-one where an adult actually adopts for a short period of time, a child that's learning to read. This would be something, and I just wondered if it's out there, whether there's other libraries doing something like that. We have a policy, if someone walks in and says, no, I just like to read to kids on Fridays at 1 or something. And is there any demand for it? Number one, is there any demand, both sides, supply and demand? Would there be demand from the child standpoint, the parents out there? And would it be worthwhile to consider if you had more than one adult who wanted to do it? In other words, okay, there's a lot of people, like, the kids. That kind of thing. So I just throw it out there based on your experience with other libraries. Whether there's anything in our policy that addresses volunteers with that type of responsibility.
Yes and no. So I'll tell you what I do know, Rick. Many libraries that I'm familiar with do not do this because, for one, it gets into staff work territories, and then we're into union work where we have staff who are designated to do this activity at their job. So if we have volunteers coming in and doing the work of staff, that becomes usually a grievable issue with the unions. The other part is also gets into safety with children who are an at-risk audience. Just like with our seniors, we have to take in safety issues very carefully with both, which requires extensive background checks that city staff are required to go through, and we don't do that for every volunteer because we don't. If you're not having access or working directly with children like that, then we don't do that as a routine matter. It's also costly. And so those two issues, that's historically what I've seen in every organization I've worked in, which we usually refer back to the schools or to the SMART program. My mom does that in the SMART program where she lives. That's where we see that the most, through those types of volunteers. but not, generally not in public library. And the biggest part of that is safety through the volunteer program, but also the issue with staffing and basically taking work away from staff at perception.
I'm thinking generally just off the club, retired, elementary school teacher. Doesn't have grandkids, but they love kids. They're not busy enough with grandkids. Most people, that's a lot of reasons. A lot of folks that are retired are grandparents, but some aren't, or their kids aren't even in the area, they're in East Coast or something. So, I'm just trying to address somewhat of a need that way, but I don't know whether there's a need from the child.
So my recommendation would be to talk to the folks at the Canby Center who run the Reading Mentor program and do something with them, because then you'd have the legal coverage. I mean, it's a huge risk management
Yeah.
issue. I work with companies that had on-site daycare centers, and the legal technicalities are huge, and that's why most organizations will not let volunteers in because of the legal risk.
Right.
And the background checks to work with children are
Right.
extremely expensive.
Exactly, and also the volunteers are coming and going, they're doing it
Right.
for 3 months, and then we're gonna do another background check.
And they're expensive.
So the other thing, I'll kind of table that whole idea, unless there's some huge thing from somebody comes back to me. But, and this is, maybe seems crazy, but, the city's over 15,000 people. And I know some people don't know where the drop box is, the drive. And is there any way to put some kind of sign that doesn't break the budget? Like in the corner of the building coming around,
With an arrow.
or
Yeah.
at least one sign on the end of the building, which is, I guess that way. Coming in from, what is that, Fourth? So what, you make a right into the, where you're heading to the movie theater.
Yes.
I don't think you need anything out here. It's just like, okay, library drop, they might not want to go to the library.
Yeah.
But they're new in town, they're new.
So sign somewhere in this alley area.
To the alley.
Okay.
Exactly.
Let me, actually, it's a great idea, Rick. Let me send this one to Jerry Nelson.
Yeah,
who's
see
the
if there's
public
something
works.
that's not expensive, they're visible. You come around there, okay, all right, I'm already here, and there's no rock, there's no drop out here. You gotta go down the alley.
Yeah.
But there's no sign that says go down the
I
alley.
think I know somebody who might do it.
Okay,
Might be.
I'm just thinking about, our new people. So,
Well, I sat on the library board for over a year before I realized they had a back area.
yeah.
So I walked out the back and really.
And I'm not gonna get into it, you can't, you gotta get out of the car, I'm not gonna get into it because that requires what we do. Of, the Dropbox equipment. So I don't know whether we're the lowest bidder on that or what, I don't know the history of it.
It's difficult.
But, you have to be pretty, athletic.
It's
It's stuff in you that I can. That's it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I'll adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting will be, what is your calendar, will be October 18th. All right,